Whoa, it's up a lot again. Damn, over 65. Okay, well, when I said breakout, I wasn't kidding, was I? Um, shit. That's not. I mean, it's good, but at the same time, in the last basically week and a half, it's gone up by uh, 13, 14%. Well, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I did say it was going to go up and buy it. So call me. Uh, that's the number. By the way, got a lot of people who have watched my videos about the water being wasted here. Something I found out that of the 330,000 acres of alfalfa, each acre obviously takes 6 acre feet. A football field covered 6 feet deep in water. An acre foot is 385,000 gallons. That makes me curious. How much water is in an Olympic-sized swimming pool? $660,000 gallons. That's it's not quite two acre feet, but it's close. It's close. How many acre feet is that's backwards? No. I got that right. Okay. How many acre feet is 660,000 gallons? 0.25. Okay, so two. Just call it two. So an Olympic-sized swimming pool is 2 acre feet. So that means that 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools, 3 of them, to water 1 acre of alfalfa per year. Now, I was curious because you know me, you guys, if you've been here before, you know me. You know I'm curious. I'm a curious guy. How much? How many acre feet does it take to raise corn? If it's 6 for alfalfa, with a maximum of 8 down by Yuma, what about corn? 1.5 to 2.5 acre feet. Not even half as much water to raise corn. Well, is that silage corn, the shit they feed pigs? It's either one. Sweet corn, which we eat, or silage corn, either one. Huh. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Well, what about wheat or barley? 1.5 to 2.5 acre feet. What about potatoes? 1.5 to 2 acre feet. So wait a minute. What the fuck? What are we talking about here, folks? Like, what's going on? Why are we raising 330,000 acres of alfalfa at to the tune of 645.2 billion gallons of water a year? So let me get this right. If the average alfalfa takes 6 acre feet and all the rest of this shit takes about 2 acre feet, that means that we could cut down on the amount of water we piss away by 400 billion gallons per year. What? Like, are you guys catching this? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? What the fuck? This doesn't make sense. Like, this doesn't make sense. One of my exes used to have a horse. And now this was a while ago, but it was $12 for a bale of hay. I think alfalfa was a little more. But, you're talking about wet 70, 80, 90 pounds. So you can't be making that much money if you're raising alfalfa. So why not raise wheat or barley instead? And just make more money and waste less water in a drought-stricken state, where we're talking about having to shut down the fucking dams in our state. Hoover Dam, built 100 years ago. We're talking about it being a few feet above Deadpool zone, where we have to shut it down and shut down 70% of the hydroelectric energy. And of course, fist fight with California, Nevada, and Utah over water. The nutritional value? I don't really think that the nutritional value of alfalfa is that great for me. And by the way, if you're not talking about human consumption, then they can fuck off. We aren't there anymore. We don't have that luxury anymore. We're not going to play that game. Well, but what about the poor dairy cows? Hey, fuck your dairy cows. We're going to eat them. And fuck the milk. We can't afford it. But it's not that expensive. Yeah, that's because the federal government gives them billions of dollars a year in subsidies. Your tax money going to the dairies to make milk cheaper. What? Why's your tax money going to dairies? Look, don't get me wrong. I fucking love cheese. I love cheese more than the next guy, I'm sure. I put cheese on everything. That doesn't mean I want to piss away our emergency aquifer and have the entire state collapse into a hole because alfalfa. No. Green fodder? Dobson, you lost me on that one. I don't even know what that is. They will get up to 9 cutting a year. And it does rain sometimes. Yes, it does. Rained like hell yesterday. Not here, but feed. Gotcha. Okay. Fodder. Gotcha. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this. Growing alfalfa is bananas. It's crazy. We can't do it. Not here, not now. Look, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, call me. Give me a call. We got a hell of a crop for you. But in Arizona, during 1,000-year drought, what are the words I'm looking for? Fuck no. No, not a chance. No, we can't do it. Sorry, nope. Wait, let me think about no. But if we actually though no. Nope. We don't have the water for that kind of shit right now. I'm not a farmer. I don't understand. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm not a farmer. I don't give a fuck. How's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. You're gonna have to not buy the $150,000 F-350 King Ranch Edition smokes your pole for you while you drive it truck next year because You can't grow alfalfa in a state with a drought. How's that for understanding? I understand just fine. There's lots of people out there who don't give a shit if we run out of water in this state. I don't happen to be one of them. So I'm going to drink the water and starve to death. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. Fuck, what was I thinking? You're right. I need the alfalfa more than I need the water. Totally. Because you know what? If I don't have a big fucking steaming pile of alfalfa for breakfast every morning, I'm just in a bad fucking mood all day long. My alfalfa O's are my favorite meal of the day. You know what? There's nothing quite like a crab alfalfa cake for lunch with a little white wine. Idiots. Get a clue on how the food chain works. Oh, I've got a clue on how the food chain works, dipstick. You don't grow alfalfa in a state with a drought so that you can send it overseas or send it to Wisconsin for dairy cows. Period. Do I ever smile? No, I don't. I mean, I did that one time. It's a long time ago. I was at Disneyland. Corn feeds cows, dumbass. They don't feed alfalfa to beef cows. God. You better zip your pants up. Your ignorance is showing. Literally, they feed grass to some cows for the last few weeks before they slaughter them. But mostly they're fed corn. Jesus. I'm not sure if I want to be prettier. I might go with cute, but pretty's just not. I think that ship sailed a long time ago. Rugged. I got rugged all day long. Yeah, not a hell of a lot makes sense anymore. That is absolutely verifiable. That's true. Mellow out some. Really? You're going to say something dumb and then tell me to mellow out when I react to how completely goofy the shit is you're saying. Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. You get smarter and I'll mellow out. Deal? You look like you're mad at the world. About a third of it, yes. About a third of it, I'm really fucking mad at. That's actually true. That's a true statement. So yeah, there's a war going on, and if you're not aware of it, then that's okay. You don't have to be. That's the reason that people like me are here, to fight it. And if you don't know what it is, that's okay. Well, I feel bad about stupidity. And I'm frustrated a little at stupidity, but I don't actually get angry except at evil. And there's a ton of that going around these days. There's a lot of evil. When I see some girl who is, 100 pounds overweight, she's got her hair dyed 6 different flavors, she's got 4 or 5 facial piercings, metal studs poking out of her cheeks and shit in her nose and ears and mouth and hair and all that, 45 earrings. I'm not mad. I don't go, I'm going to kick that girl's ass. No, it's not my first reaction. My first reaction is, oh my God, that's so sad. That's so sad. How about you? I thought you were asking me how I felt about chubby. I was like, no, I'm okay with chubby. Chubby girls they're fun, and they can be just super hot too. You don't have to be skinny to be pretty. You can be chubby and pretty. Oh, morbidly obese, not so good. Not. I'm not cool with that. morbidly obese where you're going to die of diabetes before you hit 40. No, I eat just enough now. When I weighed 350 pounds, I ate too much. At 297, I eat just enough. Oh, 22%. So imagine if we just stopped that 22%. Okay. That would be 66,000 acres. That would be 66,000 acres because we export, according to Steven, don't fuck me on this, dude. I'm going to go with your numbers. I'm assuming you just looked that up. So I'm trusting you here. So you're the authority on what women should look like? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of them, an authority. Yes. Yeah. I think that the perfect woman is anywhere from average to maybe a little chubby. No tattoos. Number one, because they're just now discovering that anybody that's got tattoos has a much higher risk of skin cancer. All right, cool, Stephen. I'm going to trust you on that. So DS says, you're telling me that I'm not. Are you? What do you think is amazingly sexy? Yeah, no tattoos. I mean, look, the bottom line is if you've got a little rainbow or something, or a dolphin, or, a tramp stamp as a target right in the lower part of your back, whatever. It just means you lived through the early 2000s. Not a big deal. Whatever. If you have skulls all over and death heads and shit, that's just gross. Yes, I am being a smartass tonight because this is important and I don't want idiots to argue with me over it. We don't need alfalfa. We don't have to have alfalfa. Good evening from South Florida. Man, cool place. Been there a few times. Very interesting place. I happen to like Cuban and Puerto Rican girls. And Cubans and Puerto Ricans just in general were super cool. It's cool people, just very cool people. I had a lot of fun down there. And I lived in Orlando for a while. Not enough Cubans and Puerto Ricans, but they've got some, just not as much as Miami, which is why Miami is spicy. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. I would love Guatemalan girls and Colombian girls and Venezuelan girls. Yes, all of them. Look, the whole hot-blooded Latina thing is really cool. It's a shit show. Well, yes, but that's not. I don't necessarily think that's because of Cuban or Puerto Rican girls. I think there's there's a lot to be said for the Hispanic culture, which is a lot like our culture, but with more peppers. By the way, I slipped some jalapenos into the burrito that I made my son. He didn't say a word until after he was done. And he looked at me and he said, I think I might have put a little too much hot sauce on my burrito. And I said, really? Why is that? And he goes, well, it was good. It had a little extra kick to it today for some reason, but it was really good. And I said, like, a lot of extra kick? He goes, no, I think it was just right. And I said, good. I filled it full of jalapenos for you. He was like, oh, you son of a bitch. And I said, but did you like them? He goes, yeah, they were actually really good. I knew it. I had a funny feeling. Yeah, spicy is going to be our deal. And oh, by the way, one of the reasons I did that was because capsaicin is extremely good for you. Extremely good for you. Let's see here. Oh, what is this? Diana Dobson lives in a Spanish-speaking country. Pretty spicy for a white girl. Sweet. Nice. Can't place it. What are we talking about? Jalapenos? Oh, I don't know. I think they're all good. I think they're all good. When it comes to hot girls, I'm the least racist person on earth. Although redheads are slightly satanic in nature, I know that. I used to have a thing for redheads. It's funny how enough pain will get you over pretty much any obsession. Let's see. I said it wrong. It's a little later in the evening. I'm a hothead big brother. Okay. Eric, there's a bunch of stuff there, and then Fernandez. You know, it's funny. I know that like all of these like Fernandez, Hernandez, all of these names they have meaning. Like there's these families, and their histories are really cool. What is that? Uh, I love Big Dog. Boy, did yeah that one. That's. I mean, I've got a couple of big dogs. I hope you mean that the way I mean it when I say it. I, yeah, I love them because they're good humans. They're actually the best humans. There's a reason that dog and God are spelled the same way. I mean, if you're dyslexic, which I am, silver is rising a lot. It's up 13, 14% in a week. Yep, it's that time. It's time to call that number. That number right there. Text that number. And oh, by the way, I heard about this book on the TikTok shop, of course. Where is it? Oh, hey, I just happen to have a copy right here. This, can't say what it is, but you need one right there. Go to my homepage. Yeah, the closer we get to World War III, the more you need one of these because the nature of asymmetric warfare is just because you're not big. Well, the problem is if you have an e copy and you do lose electricity, you don't have an e copy. See what I mean? Kind of sucks. And by the way, I would make a lot more money if I didn't have to print books, but the e copy, I mean, I suppose that if you get an e copy, you could print it out, but who's going to do that? $12,000. I download it on my phone. Right. And the phone will not work either. That's the problem. When you lose electricity, if it's an EMP, an EMP would wipe out your phone just as quickly as it would wipe out your computer. If it is a solar outburst, it's going to wipe out everything everywhere. So if it's a cyber attack, it might wipe out your computer, but it might not wipe out your phone. It really depends. It depends on what they go after. We threatened to knock out Iran's water system, their civilian water infrastructure, and then just like that, we had a problem with our water infrastructure in the Midwest. So, okay, it was obviously a cyber attack. Who did it? Who did it? I don't know. Nobody wants to say who did it. I mean, The Trump's trying to blame AOC or something. Oh, corruption. It's all about the corruption in the Midwest. Okay, but who did it? Like, come on, guys. Can EMP? Yes, an EMP. There are actual EMP devices that will knock out a substation and when I say a substation, like a major power substation, one of the big ones, and knock it out for probably less than $50,000 per. So if you had 10 of them, you could knock out 10 major substations and the areas around them. And I mean, when I say knock them out, I mean absolutely destroy them. Gone forever. You replace the hardware or it doesn't ever work again. So that being the case, we would have to order 10 of these massive transformers, which right now are back ordered for 3.5 years apiece. The problem is that once you start to overload systems, you saw the other day, they got a power surge on accident out of a data center that thought it was going to lose power. There was just a tiny disruption in the line. The electricity stayed on, but the data center thought that it was about to lose electricity. So it kicked on all of the emergency generators and flooded the system with its own energy, which at that point made all of the energy coming into the system go back out into the infrastructure and not into the data center. And that extra amount literally almost blew out everything from Atlanta, Georgia to Chicago. Oh God, what did I do now? Restricted because I redirect users to purchase products, blah, 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 whatever. Bought an old Montero, no power. Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it. That's why, I mean, as much as I loved my little super duper Jaguar coupe, I got rid of it. And I bought an older Ford pickup truck, pre-computerized Ford pickup truck. Granted, it's kick-ass looking truck. It looks like it's brand new, but that's only, I mean, I would have bought it if it was beat up, just as long as it ran good. That was the key for me, because the reality is this: we're playing with fire right now. The Iranians aren't playing at all. They're done with this shit. They're really, really, really done with this. They're really, the fact that they want reparations, they want access to all of their money, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. They don't want to talk about a nuclear deal. They're done. They're saying, look, give us everything we ask for, or the Strait of Hormuz doesn't open up again. Well, we've been playing this game long enough now that the entire world's economy is in really, really deep shit. Like, really deep shit. We're out of options. We are really out of options now. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the world's fertilizer comes out of the Middle East. A lot of the helium comes out of the Middle East. A lot of the crude oil comes out of the Middle East. Now, we say we're net exporters of petroleum, but that's only because we changed the definition of petroleum. When it comes to actual crude oil, no, we are net importers of a lot, 7 million barrels a day. That's our deficit. We need 7 million barrels a day coming into the United States in order to supply the United States with crude oil. Well, what about petroleum? Oh, well, now that's butane, methane, propane. That's all of it. Oh, so that doesn't help us. No, that doesn't. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't, if you were Iran, why wouldn't you push a little harder? I mean, why not? You know, if if and by the way, this is the biggest thing that's happened in the world as far as the one world government, new world order, whatever you want to call it. The biggest thing that's happened in the last 50 years is not the fucking accords with the Abraham Accords. It's bullshit. That's Israel threatening their neighbors and saying, sign this or else. The biggest thing that's happened in the Middle East in the last 50 years is the fact that Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and Turkey have all signed an agreement together that is exactly like NATO. They formed their own version of NATO. Now that's interesting because Turkey is in NATO, but it's also in this new alliance. And what's this alliance about? If you attack Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Turkey are obligated now to go to war with you. If you attack either one of the other two, Saudi Arabia has to go to war with you. So what they've done is they've effectively joined together in this huge Sunni Muslim architecture to make sure that the Shias understand that, hey, no more of this shit, man. You fuck with us, that's it. Well, the Houthis, of course, the Houthi rebels said, no, not India. The Houthi rebels said, hey, okay, you know what? Kiss my ass. And they started bombing the Saudis anyway. They went after some of their oil refineries. See, the problem is Saudi Arabia is in a true sense a paper tiger. You knock out their facilities for pumping oil, they're done. They're fucked. They're done. Like that's it. You knock out their desal plants, their desalinization plants, and their oil, they're really screwed. They don't have any more money rolling in. Like, what do the Saudis produce exactly? Oil. What else? Not much. Not much at all. And yeah, you can thank Trump for the fact that we now have 3 Sunni Muslim countries, arguably the 3 biggest and most well-funded. Turkey is absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the largest, most powerful Muslim country on earth. No question about it. Pakistan is a nuclear superpower, even though people shit in the streets of Lahore. It's an absolute, it's to say it's a nightmare is to go very, very, very easy on Pakistan. It's beyond nightmarish. It is almost incomprehensibly disgusting. The Pakistani people, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, they have absolutely zero thought of the idea of community. Like, if you have to go to the bathroom and you're walking down the sidewalk, you just lean up against a building and take a dump right there. The trash, nobody picks up trash. If you pick up trash, you're seen as weak. You must be in the lower caste to be picking up trash. So nobody picks up trash. So you just throw it there. I believe I'm talking about Pakistan. Yeah. Well, Pakistan, unfortunately, Pakistan has nukes. So you got to take them seriously. And yeah, I mean, we have nukes in Turkey. Turkey doesn't need their own nukes because, well, they're part of NATO. So they have us. Um, the question, of course, is what happens if we go to war with Iran and they decide to take out every other small country, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE? Then what? What if they go after Oman? That would be catastrophic, because at that point, I think you would be driving all of those countries into the arms of this new agreement, this new understanding among Sunni Muslims, which is all of us are going to defend each other from this point on. Okay, well, that's going to be very interesting, because I can tell you this: Israel, they want a piece of turkey's ass. They want some fucking turkey for Thanksgiving. That's what they want. Bad. So now what? What happens if they attack Turkey? You think Saudi Arabia is actually going to go after Israel? Never in a million years. The last I heard, they've got well over 100 nuclear weapons. Yeah. Yeah. There's, and the thing is, if you talk to the average Jewish person in, Canton, Ohio, and you say, "Hey, man, you think that Israel should blow up the world?" They go, "No. Why would you even ask me that? What do you think? Jews are crazy?" Wow. Since you put it that way, I mean, yeah, kind of. Yeah, he's gotten to the point now where he doesn't really want to talk about Iran. There's other things that we could talk about, much, much more important issues. Hey, what, a vaccine? No, no more vaccine mandates. We're not going to have any more vaccines. We're going to cut the amount of vaccines down by a whole. Oh, you want me to approve an mRNA vaccine for the flu? Are you out of your? Okay, done. Wait, what? So the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine has now got to be broken into 3 different vaccines for safety. Okay. All right. But you're going to introduce an mRNA vaccine for the flu, because that last mRNA vaccine went so well. Here's the bottom line. I don't know what the deal is with mRNA. I just know that if you're hiding something inside of a cell so that you can put it in my body without my body knowing that you're putting it in there, oh man, that makes me nervous. That makes me nervous, because we all know that that is not a vaccine. That is gene therapy. Well, there's a lot of gene therapies out there. There's some wild ones too, like, I don't know, gene therapies for cancer, for reversing aging, for sickle cell. The very first thing that's ever been cured by gene therapy was sickle cell anemia. Yeah, there's a guy walking around who used to have sickle cell, and he does not anymore. First person to be cured. I actually saw him, young black guy. It's something that afflicts a lot of black people. It's predominantly Africans, and it's a body's way of trying to ward off malaria, which is great, except it also shortens your life and is apparently incredibly painful for some reason. So, yeah. Yeah, getting flu shots is, I never understood that, because literally most of the time it seems like they're wrong. They're like, oh, well, sorry, we thought it was going to be strain blah blah blah, and it was strain blah 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 instead, and so tough shit. Wow, I didn't know that Moderna never had a vaccine approved. Well, I guess that shouldn't surprise me. That whole thing. It's really sad to me too because I know some really very intelligent people who, for whatever reason, are absolutely unable to criticize Fauci. And I don't understand that. I look at what happened and I just go, there's something wrong here. Like, there's something wrong here. But they are like, no, no, no. He saved millions of people. You don't understand. He's done so much good for the world, and this is all a Republican conspiracy. It's like, but I don't understand. Read his journal. His journal is insane. No, no, no. You don't understand. That doesn't matter. It's like, okay. And they actually don't believe that there's any such thing as vaccine injury. Nothing. Which it's hard for me to not believe that there's got to be something to it. There has to be something. There's so many people, so many millions of people have complained about feeling tired all the time since they got the vaccine, or myocarditis exploding in young men afterwards. And it's like, okay, so what caused that? Oh, well, that was COVID that did that. But the people who didn't get the vaccine and just had COVID didn't get myocarditis. Yeah, but that's different. It's like, but that seems like that's empirical evidence. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. When I found out about the beagles, man, I was like, come on, that is just satanic. Of all the animals on earth, it's like, come on, man. Dogs, really? You got to torture dogs? Couldn't be Democrats? Just kidding. I don't really have anything against Democrats. I have a lot against idiots, and there are idiots on both sides. Yeah, the Japanese study was pretty overwhelming. Oh God, AZT. I remember that. That was horrible. Yep. It's, the question you got to ask yourself is it just that because of how complicated the world has gotten and how fast information moves and how many things we're aware of all the time, is that why people have just given up on doing something about it? Is that why people have just tuned out? It's like, no, vaccines now, whatever. No, 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 I don't want to hear it. I got my vaccine. They told me that I was a traitor if I didn't. And, Arnold Schwarzenegger went on TV and said, fuck your freedom. You get the vaccine. And Joe Biden said, this isn't about personal choice or freedom. This is about doing the right thing. So I just did it. And now if there's something wrong with it, what am I going to do? Suck that shit back out of my arm? Now that I found out that it's in my ovaries or it's in my testicles or whatever, like, what am I supposed to do? Cut them off? So you just tune out. I think that's what's happening because there are, it's funny because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is very simple. It's very straightforward. It's what are your absolutely most important basic needs, like food, shelter, and you get all the way down to sex and all the rest of it. But at first, it's the absolute most important things. It's food and water, then food, then shelter. And you look at that and you go, okay, can't we apply that to common sense things like what's more important, whether or not a guy can put makeup on and false lashes and he's now a girl? Or does he have to chop his dick off first? Or does he have to get his balls completely removed? Or how, I mean, okay, look, whatever. It's 1/2 of 1% of the population is transgender. So what about the other 99+% of us? We shouldn't give a fuck. We shouldn't even be talking about it. Do they have rights? Of course, they're humans. Okay, and no and. But no, but they have rights. Okay, but no buts. They have rights. Go the fuck away. Next, let's talk about something important. Okay, well, we should talk about whether or not Harley Davidson is woke. I don't care. Harley makes a shitty product, period. It's a garbage product. Any Japanese motorcycle is better than a Harley Davidson any day. We all know that, period. Shitty gas mileage, no horsepower. They're heavy. They're unreliable. They don't handle well. They don't stop worth a fuck. They're garbage, period. Now, if you want one because of what it says about you. That's it. That's it. You're riding it because you want people to know that you're that guy. Or worse, that woman who can handle an 800-pound piece of shit. Okay. Pathetic, but whatever. It's like people who drive a Jeep. They never take them off-road, and they get the shit beat out of them because they have a suspension like a fucking go-kart, but whatever. Look at what it says about me. It says I'm a tough, rugged individual, pulls himself up by his bootstraps. Okay, fine, whatever. I don't care. If that's what you want, good for you. But whether we should buy Indian or Harley and wasting time actually talking about it, we don't have time. World's on fire, baby. Grab a hose. That's it. Grab a fucking hose. Let's put this out, or that's it. Like, am I worried about having to stay in Arizona? Yeah, if I have to stay here for a little while, then that's an issue. Yeah, that's a fucking issue. I don't want to stay in Arizona because they're handling this really stupidly. We're running out of water and they're pissing it away on a crop we don't need. We don't need it here. So what should they grow? Well, let's see. If they just stop sending it overseas, according to Stephen, we save 22%. Well, 22% is, let's see, that would be 66,000 acres. 66,000 acres, which would be let's see, that would be 4,000. Would that be 4,000 acre feet? No, that'd be 400,000 acre feet of water. 400,000 acre feet of water? Yeah, 400,000 times 385,000. You do the math because I'm not in the mood. But that is a lot. So think about that. Hay and alfalfa going overseas, 22%, right there, boom. Just say no. Say no. Absolutely not. Can't ship it out of the state. If you grow it here, it stays here. What? Yeah. If you grow alfalfa in the state of Arizona, it better be for fucking horses in the state of Arizona. There's not that many horses. Okay, well, then there's not that much fucking alfalfa, is there? Okay, but then what do we grow? Anything else. Because everything else takes less water. Oh, well, okay, but what about this? What about potatoes? If we grow potatoes, it only takes about 1.5 acre feet of water per season. Okay, great. Well, the growing season is early winter through mid-spring. Okay, and then could you have another crop? Well, yeah, we could have another crop. Like what? Well, maybe they can grow barley or wheat or something. Oh, okay. Well, then we're still increasing the production based on the acreage. Yeah, but the point is, the technology might be there, but you're talking about the most water intensive crop in the fucking world, in a desert, trying to survive a drought where the largest reservoirs in the entire United States of America are 23% full. They're just above the edge where they have to shut down all the electricity that they make that powers 700,000 homes. Oh, well, then, yeah, maybe we should just not grow super water intensive crops in Arizona for the time being. Okay, that's a great idea. Why don't we ship that shit over to, I don't know, Montana? It's so simple. Yeah, so let's grow something that doesn't take that much. No, there isn't. All of these alfalfa farms are all doing the most high-tech shit they can think of because they know that they're wasting more water per square foot than any other crop in the world. And they're doing it in a drought zone. Everybody knows that. They're not indoors. You're saying we should raise 330,000 acres of roofing? 5-story greenhouses. Wow. Well, now you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Good luck. Where are you going to get that? A bond issue? I mean, look, we have a hard time raising money in the state of Arizona for a new off ramp. Okay? That ain't going to work. That ain't going to happen. That's just simply, look, you're saying, look, there is a more complicated way to do this. Yes, there is. Building a 5-story fucking greenhouse. Well, look, if you divide 330,000 by 5, yeah, what's that give you? About 90,000 acres? Well, it's a lot smaller footprint. Yeah, 90,000 acre farm that's 5 stories tall. What could possibly go wrong with that? Here's my point. Just stop. Just stop. Democrats have great ideas. They don't fucking work, but they're great ideas. Well, let's do this. Let's run a channel from northern Arizona down to southern Arizona. Okay. That's a really good idea. I mean, the Romans did that. Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to put anything over it though. What? You're going to run an aqueduct across the fucking hottest state in the country and you're not going to cover it? No. Okay, but do you have any idea how much water is going to evaporate out of it as it's traveling across Arizona? Eh, eh. Wow, that's nuts. We should care about Chinese horses. God damn it, Chinese horses have rights too. And lefts, rights and lefts. Look, the idea that we don't love China's horses, why? Because they don't speak English? That's fucked up. That's horsist. Bobby Blue Eyes. How blue are your eyes, Bobby? They better be pretty damn blue. If you're going by Bobby Blue Eyes. Now we're just talking about the world. It's on fire. Not a biggie. That's good. I figured, yep. So I figured out where Blue Eyes came from all by myself. It reminds me of the time 20 years ago when I asked my psychiatrist, who I went to for an basically just to find out if I should be taking something for ADHD, because the lady at the Neuropsychiatric Institute, well, not the lady at, the lady who is in charge of the Neuropsychiatric Institute at UCLA said that I was the most ADHD person she'd ever met. And I thought, wow, that sucks. That's not something you want to hear. But I went to this shrink because I wanted to find out, is this something that I need? Do I need to take this shit or not? And he said, well, let's do some tests. And he said, you're kind of interesting. Let's do some more tests. And he did some more tests. And he said, that I was definitely very ADHD, which I thought was very interesting. Buy his book. Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm not selling anything. So, you go to the TikTok shop, but this is something that you might want. It's all about the things that you'll need. For instance, I'll give you an example. Let's see. Do you live in New York City? I'm sorry. However, the upper floors of walk-up brownstones, best place to be. The reason I say that is because the raiding, marauder, looter types will usually sack the first and maybe even the second floor, but they won't go any higher than that. They're just in a hurry. They don't walk up lots of flights of stairs. And when you get to the roof of a lot of those older buildings, there's a water tank up there. And that water tank will have months worth of water, especially if everybody else in the building's left. So there might be a couple people that are as smart as you are and head for the roof, but for the most part, not going to happen. Once you're on the roof, do not, under any circumstances, cook during the day. Don't cook at all if you can help it, because people will figure out where you are. Believe it or not, they will figure out where the hell you are. Although, if you're 5 stories up and it's at night and there's a wind blowing, that's key, it'll be harder because you will already be above. And of course, as the smoke rises, it's not as much an issue. So there, just one little thing. By the way, dental floss. Have lots and lots and lots of dental floss, unwaxed and certainly not minty, because the best thing that it's used for is sutures, sewing yourself up. However, it can be used to stitch up a sleeping bag or a tarp or a million other things, because dental floss, as we all know, is extremely strong. It's kind of like Spider-Man webbing. It's pretty badass. So make sure that you have at least, your budget is really going to decide this kind of shit for you. But I'll give you an example. This is something that everybody should have in their car. If you live anywhere where it gets cold, and I mean really cold, I don't mean fucking 20 degrees for a little while in the middle of the night in February, like Arizona, you should have one of these. Absolutely no question. By the way, if you get the book, I'll throw one of these in for you, because I have hundreds of these. Fishing line's good too, but it will cut through your skin if you use it as a suture. So it's just better, and it's cheaper. Just use dental floss. Just dental floss is awesome. This is something everybody should have in their glove compartment. If you live in a place that snows, look, it can be something as simple as you're on your way home, average night, for whatever reason, you go over the side, black ice, whatever. You come off of a bridge, not an overpass on a freeway or something, but something small. You come off sideways, go straight across and down the other side. Okay, well, now what? Well, you better hope somebody comes by and sees the skid marks, because if it's snowing 5 minutes from now, nobody will ever know that happened. Actually, the reason I didn't put crazy glue in my book is because, as a former Marine, I've used crazy glue on some very deep wounds, and it works temporarily. Temporarily. I had a really deep, all the way to the bone wound on my leg that was about 3 inches long and all the way to the bone. And it was bleeding. I mean, I was getting some good flow out of that motherfucker. And I thought, you know what? I got to close this now. I don't have sutures. I don't have shit. I'm just going to slap crazy glue on it and hope it holds. And I flushed it with something that did not feel good. And then I slapped crazy glue on it, dried it off, slapped crazy glue on it, and everything was great until the next day when the crazy glue started getting really crunchy and then started to break apart and the wound opened up again, because crazy glue really doesn't stick forever. Yeah, well, you know what? If I'd had a butterfly dressing, I probably would have used it. But shoe goo, yeah, you need mental help, big time. So one of these in your car, if you live someplace where it snows, will be the difference between being alive in the morning when somebody finally sees your car and not being alive. Something as simple as a freaking Mylar blanket. Really, it's that simple. Mylar blanket. And by the way, if you wrap it around your head, the aliens can't read your thoughts. I know. You're welcome. There's a bunch of other stuff in the book. You just go to my channel right there, click on the link, and it'll take you straight to my book, which, by the way, I bought a lot of survival books over the years, lots of them. Most of them don't deal with EMPs because that's the thing that's going to get us, and nobody wants to talk about it. Government doesn't want to talk about it. Government's not going to do any public service announcements about it, because what's the point? Why would they alert you to something that they can't stop? Why would they tell you about something they can't fix? No. Let's talk about Iran and their nuclear threat. Why? Well, because that's something we can fix. Why? Because it's already been fixed. Oh. Hope they read that book. Yeah. Well, I've read a lot of these books, and rarely do they address the real issues. And some of them will just straight up get you killed. They're written by people with good intentions, and they say things like, if you're going to cook, make sure you cook at night. The idea of cooking at night is ridiculous. It doesn't matter that it's nighttime. What's the most sensitive perception that you have out of all of your senses? It's your olfactory gland. It's literally the thing that we use to remember the most. So when you smell something, it triggers you instantly. That's why if you're a guy and you have any brains at all, you find out what that girl that you got the hots for, find out what her dad wears. Because if she's got a good relationship with her dad or a really bad relationship with her dad, you want to smell just like her dad. It's chemical warfare. Women do it all the time. They don't actually smell like flowers usually. Although there was that one girl. No, I'm just kidding. You wear a turban of tinfoil. Yeah, actually. Oh, that's weird. I don't know where my tinfoil hat is. I actually have a tinfoil cowboy hat. I wear it when I talk about crazy shit, which, like really crazy conspiracy theories. Like, are the people in charge of the world actually reptilian shapeshifters from the planet Uranus? Grow hemp and bring back hempcrete. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Wow. Holy smoke, 154 billion gallons. John Allen, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I see what you did there. That's really cool. Jalapeno can be unpredictable. Yes, if it turns red, it's actually really good. Jalapenos are not supposed to be green. That's because they're picked when they're not ripe. If you pick jalapenos after they've ripened to a bright red color, they're awesome. Seeds are still hot, but they taste really good. Vermont, not a bad state. Still not New Hampshire, though. New Hampshire, whose motto is live free or die, was rated by several different organizations as the freest state in the United States. The least oversight, the least governmental interference, the least bullshit. And with a motto like live free or die, that's pretty cool. By the way, I want to say that when I checked, none of the New Hampshire delegates for Senate or Congress take any APAC money. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's the only state in the country that can say that. Everybody else in the United States, their congressmen, senators, they all take it. Now, there's a few that don't, 13, I think, that refuse to take Israeli bribes. But for the most part, everybody takes it. Jesus Christ, really? Silver's up again $1 already. That's in after hours. That's Globex. That's the global exchange. COMEX, it was up $1 or something already too. So, the other week, week and a half ago, when it was 54, when it dipped down to 54, and I said, guys, this is it. This is it. Well, now it's at 65.70, and it's very quickly going to be at 66. I have a funny feeling it'll be at 78, like I said. So, if you want to make a quick 10, 12%, you probably ought to call me about some silver. And I will be making a run to get some silver, a couple thousand ounces, pretty quick. So you might want to get in on that. Good pricing, better than anybody else's. I mean, literally, right now, all the big guys are running specials of, if you buy 500 ounces, it's only $8 over spot. $8 over spot. I'm less than 25% of that price. I mean, they're ridiculous. They are, well, look, bottom line is when you've got, tens of thousands of square feet and you got big vaults and armored couriers and all that shit, your price has to go up. So I guess I don't blame them for that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be one of them. I'm not that guy. Let's see. What else is going on here? Let's take a look at is there any crazy news that we should be talking about? CPI preview. Really? CPI preview. What's the point? It sucks. That's what we know. It sucks. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, first of all, it's going to be a lie. And second of all, it's going to suck. So it's the CP lie and it sucks. Any questions? Okay, good. Rebalancing the odds. Iran's military command reshuffle. Okay. Middle East malaise, AI angst, batter big tech. Okay. Wealth taxation. There's no such thing as wealth taxation. There's middle income taxation, what little bit's left of the middle class, and then there's just fuck the poor. Oh. Russia agrees to repurpose strategic military bases in the post-Assad Syria. Guess who won that one? And that would be the Russians. The Russians are the only thing that's going to hold Israel back, by the way, just so you know. Fauci privately flagged miscarriage risk before telling pregnant women there were no red flags. What the fuck? Really? Come on, man. That's murder. That's murder. Right now I'm using Zero Hedge. Yeah, let's hope he goes down, because that's just amazing. Hoover Dam is a few feet away from having to shut down not only the water that they're sending, but on top of that, 70% of their electricity will have to go offline. Massachusetts legalizes abortion up to birth as liberals cheer. I have no comment on that at all. Let's see. Bank of America. The U.S. unemployment rate is falling because Americans are too rich. Huh. Okay. All right. That's what I thought too. I was like, man, we're way too wealthy, and that's why U.S. unemployment rate is falling, even though it's not falling. The job numbers just came out the other day, and they were fucking horrible. Mystery drone threat emerges as America's unsinkable aircraft carrier. Oh, mystery drone threat emerges at America's unsinkable aircraft carrier, prompting curfews. Ooh. Oh. Whoa, that's Diego Garcia. Yeah, I don't yeah, that's the thing about abortion is it's one of those issues that can be so contentious that while Israel is taking over the government of the United States, we will literally get into a civil war in the streets over something like that. So what I say is, let's prioritize, because I can tell you this: once Israel has truly taken over the United States in every single way, when all of our Congress people are dual citizens of Israel, when all of our senators have actually sworn an oath to die in defense of Israel and served in the IDF, and then come here to subjugate us, once that happens, there will be no stopping abortion. There will be no stopping of pornography everywhere, all the time. There will be no stopping people being able to access every kind of drug, any kind of alcohol, any kind of anything that can destroy a society from the inside out will flood into this country, and they will target literally the smallest children among us. Because remember, in their world, 3 years and 1 day is the age of consent. That is in the Talmud, period. It says that if you do something sexual with someone under the age of 3, it doesn't count towards their virginity. Because, like a poke in the eye, it may not feel good, but it's okay. They'll heal. It says that in the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. These are not people I want in charge of my country, period, under any circumstances. It says that even the best Gentile should be killed. That's not taken out of context. That is the context. That I am not a Jew, therefore I am not a human. I don't have a human being's soul. That's the most important fight we have on earth. So right now, Maslow's hierarchy, as far as I'm concerned, is I live in Arizona, so I need water. Okay, so let's put that up at the top. Israel has a group of people, not all of the people in Israel, but a small group of people who control Israel, are absolutely dead set on the idea of destroying Western culture. And in doing so, they want to start a war between Muslims and Christians so that they can watch as we destroy ourselves and each other at the same time. Once that's done, then they can push out and take over the greater Israel, and nobody will stop them. Because the people who they're pushing out of the way are so used to being beaten up and pissed on that they may complain, but they're just going to pick up their fucking tent and move. Or get shot or run over by a tank. It's up to them. But that is the attitude that these people have is, what can I do? Well, that's exactly actually, yeah, I think it's 7 million now, but that's because a lot of the people that were there that were Jewish said, hey, you know what? I'm not staying here for now. And they left the country. They banned flights out of Israel for a while. And the reason they did was because the people that want to start these wars, they have absolutely no interest in putting themselves in danger. None whatsoever. They don't want to fight these wars. There's something called a golem. Yeah, just like the one in Lord of the Rings. Except the golem that the Jews talk about is this magical creature made out of mud. It looks pretty much like a human being, but much bigger. And it is this monster that they create with magic. Not joking, even though they accuse Jesus of using magic and being a bastard and not being the savior because of the magic. They actually are allowed to use magic for whatever reason. But a golem is made of clay. It's imbued with God's power to destroy Israel's enemy. They don't have to fight their enemies. They can have the golem do it. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was that golem. Anybody that's joining the United States Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, you're their golem now. It's GOLUM. GOLUM. And the golem is a monster. And that's exactly what the United States of America is for Israel right now. We are their golem. And by the way, the golem is controlled by its master. They put a scroll in its mouth and they make it eat the scroll, and the scroll has the name of the master on it. And once the golem ingests that scroll, it is linked to its master forever. It cannot do anything to harm its master, and it can't do anything without its master's approval. It's some weird shit, man. It's, like on the one hand, you laugh and you go, wow, that's some crazy old wives' tale superstition, magic, garbage, myth. Yeah, it's not really, because they literally took it so completely literal that they have made the United States of America that. They literally control us from within. They took over our politics, they paid off our politicians, and they said, this is what you're going to do. Don't blame the Rothschilds, it's all of them. See, when people say, oh, well, it's the 13 families, bullshit. Bullshit. The Haredi and the Hasidi, ultra-Orthodox in New York, in Israel, all around the world. The guys with the long hair, they can't cut the hair on their temples. Yeah, do you know why? Because in Leviticus it says if you cut the hair on your temples, you must be put to death. What? Like, that's so fucking dumb, it's hard to even say it. Who would believe that? Apparently, they do. Apparently, they actually believe that. Oh. So do they actually believe everything that's in the Talmud? Yes, absolutely. Once the temple was destroyed and you could no longer make sacrifices directly to God in the temple, it became rabbinic Judaism, where rabbis are the absolute voice of God in every sense. When a rabbi says, this is what you may or may not do, that is it. Which is why they argue constantly, because basically their religion is not a religion. It's a cult based on laws. It's all a bunch of rules. That's it. That's it. Who you can and can't sleep with, when you can and can't sleep with them, what you can eat, when you can eat it, when you cannot eat it, on what kind of plate you're allowed to eat it. I mean, what you're allowed to drink, what you're allowed to do on certain days, what you can wear, how you can cut your hair. If you get into a fist fight with another man, your wife can jump right in and help you. That's totally okay. Ride or die, baby. Except if she happens to touch his genitals, she must be put to death. God said that? Yep. God said that. God damn right he did. No question. There's no question that that is the most important thing to God. Look, if your wife touches another man's balls during a fight, let's just be clear. She touches another man's balls. Well, that's between you and her, because Judaism says that literally any kind of crazy shit you want to do in the bedroom, you're allowed to do as long as you both consent. So if you want to touch another man's balls, well, hey, great, good for you. God bless you. I probably don't want to see that video, but that's not the point. The point is, it's okay. But if you're in a fight with a guy and she grabs his balls, you must put her to death. If your son is disrespectful, you must take him to the front gate of the town or the city, and in front of the elders of the city, he must be put to death. If your teenage boy is disrespectful, I can tell you this, there's probably not a lot of teenage boys that would be left at that point because they're all disrespectful at one point or another, whether they realize it or not. They just are. It's called being thoughtless. But, you know, it needs to be their bare balls. Well, that really helps a lot. The bottom line is that even if it's just, even if it's, they have to touch their balls while wearing a rabbit skin glove. I don't care. Whatever the key is, that's nuts. That's not God. God doesn't tell you whose balls you can play with, or the fact that you can't eat meat and cheese on the same plate, or that you can't eat pork. Look, if God didn't want you to eat pork, God would make pork inedible. It'd be like tree bark, right? I mean, it's so simple. I don't normally eat things that are made out of aluminum. And the reason I don't is because it's hard to chew and it doesn't taste good. Now, on top of that, it's probably not good for me either, but that's really not the point because we never even have to get past the fact that it doesn't taste good. So, bacon. I'm pretty sure that if I could bite into an angel, which I don't recommend, I really think that's a bad idea. But hypothetically, if you could bite into an angel, I'm pretty sure they'd taste like bacon. Right before they smote you. Everybody likes pork. And I'm just glad that Jews and Muslims can agree not to eat pork. More pork for the pork pies, like me. All right, guys. Well, I think pork was loaded with parasites 2,000 years ago. Shit, Monday night. Pork was loaded with parasites yesterday. That's why we cook our meat. Yeah, that's the whole idea of cooking meat, is to make sure that if there are any parasites in your meat, you cook them and kill them before you put them in your stomach. Well, pigs would like to be clean. I know that, if you have a pig in your house and let's say it's a trained miniature pig, they will use a litter box. As opposed to going to the bathroom anywhere else, they'll go to the litter box and they'll use their litter box because they don't like it nasty and smelly any more than anybody else does. However, when you put them in a mud pen that's, 3x5, and you don't clean it constantly, well, they're going to end up rolling around in their own shit. Are they happy about it? Probably not. They didn't know that then. Right. Monday night. That was 2,000 years ago, right? I'm going to make a suggestion now. It's just a suggestion. Take it out of the fucking book. It's crazy, right? Crazy idea. How about this? Porking a 3-year-old. Take that out of your fucking book. Because if you don't take it out of your book, we're never going to be friends. Period. If you say the age of consent is 3 years and 1 day, fuck you. If you say that I must be killed because I'm not Jewish, we're done. That's the end of the conversation. Like at that point, if you and I were sitting across from each other and you said, look, brother, I love you, man. You're the coolest dude I know. But you just have to understand that at some point I'm going to kill you. It's a pretty good chance you're not walking out of that room. Really. So if you were Muslim, which is a religion of peace, which is why they cut so many people into pieces. if you're a Muslim and you say to me, look, you don't have to convert to Islam. You can just be a second class citizen, pay a huge tax, never be allowed any rights. And if we ever have any anger management problems, we'll just take it out on you or your loved ones. And by the way, don't think for a second any of your daughters are considered human, unless, of course, they convert. But even then, they're going to be beaten up because it's what we do. That's how we do. I would say to you, okay, guess what? You're probably not leaving this room either. But are you held? Let's see. Are you held responsible for the shit in the Bible? Like what shit? Where are you talking about the shit where Jesus said, anyone who harms these little ones should throw themselves into the deepest part of the ocean with a millstone around their neck? Or you can't get into heaven unless you have the mentality of these little ones? Basically, if you have a childlike spirit, I don't, is that the shit you're referring up to? Because the Bible to me is the New Testament. The Old Testament, it's not my book. It's not your book either if you're a Christian. The fact that we were told that somehow that old, insane piece of shit had anything to do with us is nuts. It's not foreshadowing. It's not fucking wisdom. It's an insane book full of genocide and weird shit. Just weird shit. Now, from a historical standpoint, are there some interesting anomalies? Yeah. Was there a great flood? Yep. Did Noah put 2 of every single species of animal on planet Earth onto one single wooden boat? If you can't do enough math to figure out how many hundreds of thousands of different species of animals there are, and the fact that that is almost insane to even contemplate it, then no. The fact that that Noah's story is fully 500 years after Gilgamesh, after the Sumerians and the Babylonians talk about a great flood. The fact that Noah is one of hundreds of flood stories from around the world. It's just one of those crazy things where it's like, okay, if, and don't get me wrong, 500 years ago, no internet, no Encyclopedia Britannica, nothing. So when you heard this flood story, it's like, wow, okay. Well, obviously the woodpeckers and the termites were not involved, not in a wooden boat scenario. But you wouldn't know that in the Amara Indians in South America have a flood myth. You wouldn't know that down in Tierra del Fuego, the indigenous Indians have a flood myth, or that the Hopi have a flood myth, or the Zuni Indians have a flood myth. You wouldn't know any of that. You wouldn't know that there are tribes in North America that talked about how a crow came and told them that there would be a great flood. And unfortunately, their shaman ignored the crow. And then they heard God hit the earth with a giant hammer. And right after that, the entire earth flooded. Now, if you look at what happened, the like Randall Carlson's theory about how the ice age ended, or really, it's a tough one because the ice age was ending, the Younger Dryas period kicked in almost overnight, and we went back into the deepest part of the ice age for about 1,200 years, and then all of a sudden everything thawed out, and we've been in the longest interglacial period in recorded history. And when I say recorded history, I mean recorded in ice cores and things like that, not human history. That's nothing. That's 300,000 years that we've been around. But an interglacial period, most people don't realize that 70% of Earth's history is a snowball. We've been in an ice age, and there's been a narrow band around the equator that was very nice. Not the rest of the world. So, is Randall right? Was there a huge comet that 2.5 kilometers across that hit the Cordillera? Was it the Cordilleran? No, it was Laurentide ice sheet. It hit the Laurentide ice sheet and vaporized it. Well, I can tell you that if that's exactly what happened, that would have created a flood that is completely unimaginable. You're talking about between 5 and 10,000 foot thick ice that would have vaporized almost instantly. And in doing so, it would have created an 800 to 900 foot high wall of water that ran for 1,000 miles from Washington State all the way across to basically the Mississippi. And that wall of water would have, we know for a fact that the Columbia River Gorge was created in less than 1 month. We can prove that. That's 1,000 foot deep gorge. That's like a mile across, and it's 1,000 feet deep. But the Grand Canyon took over 1 million years. How do we know that? Well, that's what they said. Who said that? Well, the guys 150 years ago, using their best science techniques. Oh. Okay, well, that's not very inspiring. No, but everybody agrees with them. Well, why does everybody agree with them? Well, because, you got to go along to get along in the archaeological world. If you're into anthropology and whatnot, you don't contradict what the guys before you said. Then you just seem like you're trying to be a punk kid. So what we know today is what we knew 100 years ago, and very little has changed since then. And if you try to change it, it's the end of your career. Look at that idiot who came up with the idea that maybe there was a crust on the earth and that there was like tectonic plates that shifted. What kind of bullshit is that, man? Like they just absolutely destroyed his career. Oh, but then it turned out to be true. That's a very, very good question. That's a very good question. There are a lot of areas of the Grand Canyon that are off limits. They say, and again, you can only hear this shit so much, and before you just go, sure, it's for our safety. There's some dangerous parts of the Grand Canyon. All right, people were going through the Grand Canyon 100 years ago in wooden boats. Yeah, wooden rowboats going down the Grand Canyon. Now, a lot of them got killed because they were in wooden fucking boats going down, class 4 rapids. But today, what's the reason we can't go into those areas today? Well, because they're dangerous. Don't go there. Oh. Are you allowed to fly down below the level of the Grand Canyon? No. Never. Okay. But if you go to one of those places you're not allowed to go and you try to rappel into the canyon, you'll see all kinds of aircraft, unmarked aircraft that are below the level of the canyon. Yeah, that's different. Oh, so if you see a multi-million-dollar twin engine aircraft that's turbine powered, like a turboprop, not something some asshole that lives out in the middle of nowhere would be flying around, and it has no tail numbers, is that legal that he's flying down below the rim of the Grand Canyon? No, completely illegal. Well, then who the fuck is it? Don't know. Doesn't show up on radar, even if they would tell you, which they probably wouldn't. All right, so what about the Blackhawks that you see flying around all of a sudden? Well, I mean, clearly the Blackhawks are military. There's only a couple guys that own Blackhawk helicopters in the private world, and it ain't them. Okay, so why are they flying around? Because they're watching you. Yeah, but why are they watching me? Because you're in a no-go zone. Well, why is it a no-go zone? Because there's something in that canyon that you are not supposed to see. Why? I don't know. I don't know. Now, I could tell you what the Hopi say, because I was in the Grand Canyon and I found out from our guide that the people think that the Indians believe that the ant people who live under the Grand Canyon, they live underground. They always have, and they still do to this day. The ant people came before the flood and rounded up the Hopi and told them that they needed to come live underground for the time being. And during that time, there was great upheaval on the surface. And after the upheaval was over, the ant people said they could come back to the surface. Now, the ant people are not ants. They look like humans, pretty much, from what I understand from the Indians. They look like us, but they all live underground, and they do not want to make contact with us. They don't want our modern civilization. They don't want anything to do with us. But they did save the Hopi. But that was because the Hopi were living in harmony with the natural world. And we're not. So they don't want us down there. Now, that to me is very interesting. That is very interesting to me, because that's legit. Like, that is really what they believe. It's exactly where, and that's the thing. It's not like, oh, well, we can't tell you where the ant people are. They'll tell you exactly where the fuck they are. They are in the Grand Canyon, where the Colorado and the Little Colorado meet. And the reason that they know is, and they'll tell you before we named it, they would say where the large river meets the Blue River. And guess what? The Little Colorado is brilliant blue where it dumps into the Colorado River. I know, I've flown over it in a helicopter. It was wild. I literally rented a helicopter for myself, just the pilot and me and my daughter. And I said, take us out and show us shit nobody else gets to see. And he was like, all right, man, this is going to be cool. I said, fuck the normal tour. I don't want the normal tour. I want something I'm going to remember. And let me tell you something. I haven't even watched the video of it. Maybe I actually watched it once now that I think about it, because I remember thinking, oh, shit. No, I did watch it. I remember that because I remember thinking, oh, shit, here it comes. He flew over the forest so low that we were at treetop level, and I didn't see the edge of the canyon coming up. And when we got to the edge, he went straight over the edge of that helicopter. It scared the shit out of me, but it was fun. I mean, you want to talk about it was like literally just one deep breath. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So, bottom line is we flew over the area, and I asked the pilot, I said, is this, have you heard this? And he said, oh, absolutely. He said, I've talked to a lot of the natives here. He said the Native Americans all agree that is the place. Like that's where the ant people are from. That's why that area will never, ever, ever be developed. He said somebody came and they were going to develop the plateau across from it where this Y junction is. And I was like, you went no fucking way. That is, I want to say 3 different Indian nations. They all consider that exact area holy ground, like the holiest ground there is, because that is, in their opinion, the birth of their nations happened there. Before, it was just a bunch of people that were taken in, but when they came out, they stayed together, and that's what created them. So they don't fuck around when they're talking about the ant people. They talk about it with reverence. And if you go and look at the glyphs all over Arizona, you'll see fucking ant people. You'll see their hands and their feet, and then you'll see things that come out, and that's why they call them ant people. Now, in real life, did they have? No, they didn't have antennas. They put that there so they would identify that, oh, that looks like an ant. They must be referring to the ant people. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that when I learn about that, do I think that the ant people are aliens? I don't jump to that. I don't have any reason to. I watched Ancient Aliens for shit, I don't know, the first 15 seasons. And every time he would say, could it be ancient aliens? I'd go, no. My ex would laugh. She'd be in the other room or something, and she'd hear me go, nope, that's not it. And she'd laugh. She'd go, are you watching Ancient Aliens again? I go, yeah. It's Ancient Engineers, not Ancient Aliens. But the show is outstanding. It is a fucking outstanding show. It's just that you have to take everything with a grain of salt because it's Hollywood. Look, David Wilcock, God rest his soul. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he left it when he did, or the way he did. All I know is that the moment I saw him, I just thought, oh, this guy's full of shit. This guy's full of shit. From an elite family of elites that are the people that are in the know and, whatever. Let's see. I call bullshit. Since when has the U.S. government ever said, oh, okay, we won't fuck with you? Who says that they don't? See, that's the problem. What does the government do? Whatever the fuck it wants. That's our government. That's my fucking government. Those motherfuckers worked for me. I own them. Okay? I own them. If anything, they should be the slaves, and we are the slave owners. Okay? If you volunteer to give your life to the service of me as an American citizen, that's it. That's it. You serve me. Now, you can call it indentured servitude, slavery, whatever you want. A good job with a hell of an insurance policy, great, whatever. But those motherfuckers work for me. I own that. That's my government. Period. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. But do they tell me what they're doing? No. Why? Well, it's for your own good. No, you don't know what, and that's the problem. They don't know what's good for me. They have no concept of what's good for me. They know what's good for Israel. They know what's good for Elon Musk. They damn well know what's good for Mark Zuckerberg, but they don't know what's good for me. They don't even care, you know? And they laugh about it. They think it's funny. The what was it? The fucking big beautiful bill. Okay. Well, I remember when Thomas Massey made a joke and he said, "Look, bills are either big or they're beautiful, but they're never both." And I thought, hey, I like that guy. He seems like a legit politician. Like maybe he's an honest one. I didn't realize that the way that they worded it, the states were under so much pressure to cut people off of the welfare rolls that it would almost overnight lead to 1.5 million children being cut from meals, whether it's at school or from welfare, food stamps, whatever it's called in whatever state. 1.5 million children, just like that. I found out in the state of Arizona, they were so fucking freaked out about losing federal funding that they started cutting people just automatically. Just cut them. If you're not sure, cut them. They can come back and beg for help later, but just cut them off the rolls because they had to cut by a certain percentage or they lost federal funding. Well, they're not equipped to really go through and look at every case yet. So just fuck it. Cut them up. If you have any question about whether or not they're legit, get rid of them. That led to 180,000 children in Arizona alone losing their fucking food program. Look, man, when it comes to children, I don't give a fuck. Black, white, Hispanic, fucking Asian, doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck what color or creed or religion they are. The children, okay? Children are not like the rest of us. We're all grown-ups. We can do stupid shit. We can do whatever. We can do all kinds of dumb, evil shit. They're children. That is how you define a civilization. How do you treat the children? How do you treat the elderly? How do you treat the handicapped? Whether it's physical or mental, doesn't matter. How do you treat the least among you? Because we know how we treat the best. We treat them like they're gods. They're fucking gods. They're just a bunch of hoarding shitheads who hoard resources instead of old newspapers. The guys on, hoarding shows where we go, oh, that's so sad. That's so sad that they hoard shit and then they got 15 years of fucking coffee cups on the counter. Yeah, they have a sickness called hoarding. So does anyone that's got billions and billions of dollars. But we worship them. So, that's our civilization. That's how we roll right now. But it's just absolutely insane to me that we cut 180,000 children. And this is the best part. You take the two groups that are supposed to be the most important, okay, the least among us and the little ones, you combine that group into one group, which is a small fraction of children, and it's a small fraction of the poorest people among us. You put that group together. Now, in theory, that's the group that everybody in the fucking country would focus on the most. Like that, this can't exist here. These are children and they suffer from extreme poverty. Fuck that. No way. No fucking way. Your mom and dad might be pieces of complete shit, but when you leave that house and you come to our schools, you matter. But that's not how it works. So since then, as you can imagine, uh, I I don't believe in any politicians. I mean, you know, if it weren't for Maslow's hierarchy of most important threat in the world right now, the most important threat to the United States of America right now is the influence of Israel, the influence of a group of people who say in their official documentation, in their official absolute, this is who we are statement on life, that I'm not human. Fuck you. No way. Not going to let you take over my country. That's number one. Now, once that's taken care of, I want the heads of every motherfucker who decided that they were going to just literally fuck over the most important people among us. Now, do I think that we should treat the elderly with an enormous amount of respect? Absolutely. All of them? Well, there's some pretty cranky old motherfuckers out there. But you know what? Initially, yes. Unless they really, really prove that, they're just that guy who waves a shotgun and says, get off my lawn. Unless they're that guy, yeah. The default position should be you open the door, you step out of line, you give them your seat, you stand up on the fucking subway, That's because they are our elders and they have a lot of wisdom. Now, do I think we should be stuffing them in old folks' homes? No, not really. But if we're going to stack them like firewood in Hilton old fart homes, okay. That doesn't mean their life's over, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't be using them. And I mean using them in the truest sense. Let's use them. Look, man, if they're breathing, let's use them. If they haven't checked out mentally, fuck it, you're not done yet. Now, what does that mean? They're not going to be able to chop much wood, not at 85. No, but you could tell me your story. You could tell me what you've learned. You could tell me what you think is the most important thing you've ever experienced in your life. That's your job now. Your body's failing, but if your mind isn't, we need your help. That's right. They have all of the fucking wisdom. Now, clearly, there's some among us that, even though they're advanced in age, I mean, how old's the president? He something, 80 something, but, or Mitch McConnell. Yeah, I don't think he's got much of course, the problem, of course, is he's never had anything to contribute to anybody. Like, he's just a turd. But there are people out there, let me give you an example. Nice guy lived across from me when I lived in Santa Monica. He was he married? I don't think he was. I think he just lived alone, directly across. And one day I said to him, hey, is that your 65 Mustang out there in the carport? He goes, yeah, I bought that brand new. I've had it my whole life. And I said, wow, that's really cool. And well, not his whole life, but he's had it its whole life. And I said, wow, that's really cool. I said, hey, is that a Marine Corps sticker on the back? It's kind of faded. He goes, yeah, I got to get a new one, I guess. I said, all right. When were you in? He said, oh, I was in from 42 to 45. Holy shit. You're fucking kidding me. 42 to 45? I said, what did you do? He said, I was a grunt. I said, you were a grunt? He goes, yeah, I was just a grunt. I said, did you serve in the Pacific? He goes, oh, yeah, I was on all the islands. I said, you were on all the islands? He goes, oh, yeah, I think, he said something like 13 or 15 island landings. And I said, you landed on that many islands? He goes, yeah, mostly first wave, but not always. Sometimes second wave, third wave. But yeah, it's usually the first day. And I said, it's like, were you on like Tarawa? He goes, oh yeah, Tarawa was a tough one. I said, were you on what was the one that oh shit. There was one a little tiny island, Peleliu. I said, were you on Peleliu? He goes, oh yeah, Peleliu, that was a tough one. I said, you weren't on Iwo Jima, were you? He goes, oh yeah, I was on Iwo Jima. He goes, I couldn't quite see the first flag that they raised from where I was on Mount Suribachi. This motherfucker was just like, I don't know, 5'8", 110 pounds. Just a nice old man, silver-haired old guy, lived across a fucking hall from me. This dude was a fucking legend. I had no idea. Nobody had any idea. I couldn't believe it. I said to him, this is going to sound crazy, but I've always wanted to make a documentary that I don't think many people would understand. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I was a grunt too. And I said, some of the worst times, some of the hardest times that I ever experienced were nothing like what you went through. It was nothing that intense. But I said, it seems like the harder it is, like the worse it is, the harder you laugh sometimes. And he got a big smile on his face. He goes, yeah. He goes, I guess you're right. And I said, some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life, and some of the hardest I've ever laughed in my life was in really like some pretty shit conditions. And I said, I think it's almost like your body's natural reaction to, out of self-defense, to really laugh your ass off, because you have to sometimes. And he thought about it and he said, yeah. He said, you're right. And I said, you got any good stories, like really funny stories? And he said, yeah, I do actually. I got some really funny shit happen. I had him share a bunch of them with me. I remember writing them down, but one of them was really, he said it, this is just an example. They're pinned down on the beach, first wave. I forget what island they were on, but they couldn't get more than maybe 20 yards off the beach. And they were pinned down, poke your head up, lose it, that kind of thing. But when you hit the beach, as you went up, you were safe until you got to the top of the first rise. And then all hell broke loose. And he said, it was funny because we were thinking, there's no way we're ever going to get out of here. Like, not alive. No way. Nobody's surviving this shit. It was just a hailstorm of bullets. And I said, well, how'd you break through it? He goes, well, that's the funny part. He said a Marine came up and he said, hey, I just found out they have fresh steak and ice cream on board the ship and they're bringing it on shore. And everybody was like, what? He goes, yeah, I'm spreading the word. They have fresh steak and fresh ice cream. They're going to bring it up and they're going to bring it on shore, but they can't bring it on shore until we complete the first, section or whatever, kill enough enemy to push them back a certain amount of yards. And he spread the word. He said, literally at that moment, like we all knew, We all knew what we had to do. And we had moved like 1,000 yards inland and just wiped out the Japanese pillboxes, machine gun nests, mortars, everything in less than 2 hours because we didn't want to miss dinner. And at that point, they brought on all the steaks and barbecues and the whole thing and the ice cream and coolers that they kept it cold. And he said, it was the most amazing thing ever. He said, I'm sitting across from my buddy and he's still got his flak jacket on. And I said, hey man, why are you still wearing your flak jacket? He goes, oh, no reason. And I said, are you bleeding? And he put his hand up and he goes, hey, yeah, keep it down, man. He goes, what? Did you get shot? He goes, yeah, I got shot. And he pulls it back. He's got one right straight through his fucking shoulder, which is why his arm was kind of hanging down. And I said, dude, you got to get to a medic. He goes, fuck you. I'm not going to the fucking medic until I get the steak and the fucking ice cream. Then I'll go to the fucking medic. And it was like, what? He got fucking shot. No, I didn't get shot. Keep your mouth shut. They got ice cream. And of course, afterwards he did. He went and got patched up. He was on the ship. They took him out. They took him completely out of combat. But not until he got his fucking steak and his ice cream. And I thought, God, that's the kind of shit that you look at. I'll give you another example. A guy literally does the one thing you're never allowed to do. Never allowed to do. Pick up a case of beer that is left behind by the Japanese. Come on. You don't think that's a booby trap? Of course it is. So this guy, he goes to pull a beer out and he hears a click. He turns around and starts running. Next thing he knows, he wakes up in a bomb crater about 30 feet away at the bottom of the bomb crater. And he gets up and everybody's laughing. And he's like, what's so goddamn funny, man? I almost got killed. And as he's standing up, he looks down and he goes, where the fuck are my boots? And everybody points to the same spot. His boots are like this. He literally was running, and as he put his feet down and that explosive went off, it blew him out of his boots. And somehow he didn't have a scratch on him. He got a concussion. He got knocked out from the blast. It blew him out of his combat boots and into a hole 20 yards away or 20 feet away or whatever it was. And everybody was just laughing because it's like, there's boots. You better go put them back on. How the fuck did that? Who knows? The physics are impossible, obviously. You don't get blown out of your boots. Well, he did. So that's the kind of shit that I talked to him about. But the fact that he was sitting there all those years across from me, I didn't even know who he was. There are millions of seniors like that. Millions of them. And they have some of the most incredible stories. Yeah, divine intervention. Those are the kind of guys who come back. They never touch a weapon again for the rest of their lives. They never want to go hunting. They never want to be anywhere near any of that shit. They've had enough. But strangely enough, they live a very, very humble, very spiritual life. They're the ones among us that seem to be the best Christians. And it's like, why is that? Well, because they've been through hell. So you can't threaten them with going to hell. They've been there and they know that the food's not as bad as they say. But they don't want to go back necessarily, So that's, it's just my opinion. I mean, who the fuck am I? I'm not going to go and fix the system and have, elderly people treated better because that's just not where we're at in this country. We're more interested in having that new Polaris fucking side by side than taking care of Grandpa Joe. That'll change. We have to change our priorities, but I'm afraid that we may not have suffered enough pain yet as a direct result of our stupidity, but we will. We're about to. And, in a way, I'm not angry about it. I'm not angry about it because the sooner we get this over with, the sooner we rip the Band-Aid off, the better. Because I have children and they're not children anymore. They're young adults now. And I don't want them to live in the bullshit world that I live in. I want them to have what I was promised when I was a child. I was promised a country that looks very different than this. And I want them to have that. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of it before I die either. You know, I probably only have 40 or 50 years left. So let's get going, man. I want that thing that I was promised. All that freedom and all that. I've never woken up a day in my life in this country and had more freedom than I did the day before. It's always been just a little less and just a little less. Wow, that's cool. 90-year-old father. He's got to be a total pain in the ass sometimes, but you know what? You're going to be so glad you did. You know, I mean, that's the reality. There's just no way around that. That's because that feels like what you're supposed to do. And if it feels like what you're supposed to do, it probably is, you know? There's that little voice in the back of our head that quietly suggests things before our ego jumps in and says, no. There's a much easier way. That quiet little voice is God. And if that voice is telling you to kill people, no, that's mental illness. You go get checked. If that voice is telling you that if you planted as many trees as you possibly could for the rest of your life, that you would leave this planet a much better place than you found it, yeah, there's a good chance that's God. I'm going to go with, yeah, that's God. Because that just sounds right to me. If God's telling you to go blow yourself up and kill a bunch of people, that's not God. That's not God. Well, thanks, Celeste. Appreciate it. Yeah, now I'm going to go. I'm going to run over to the store. I have a small addiction to a specific kind of pretzel. I don't eat a lot of them, but they're extremely salty, which, by the way, I found out that this whole thing about avoid salt and then drink Gatorade. Are you fucking kidding me? Salt is an electrolyte. You need it. So eat lots of salt. Just don't eat the iodized white table salt. That's nasty. That's just pure sodium. Eat the good shit. We all know what that is now. And yeah, and don't drink 5 gallons of water because you flush all the electrolytes out of your system when you do that. Ugh. So, Joe, sorry, man. I'm done for the night. Timing. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow for sure. Call me if you want some silver. Or my book. Holy shit, I made an entire 3 cents on that live stream. Woo! That is just craziness. Yeah. How are the stalls cleaned? Rarely. Not enough. That's the problem. All right, guys. A little over 2 hours of live stream. I'm good for the night. I will see you tomorrow night, though, for sure.